Each and every draft cycle, there are FCS prospects that do not get the love that they deserve in the draft. Yes, they might play smaller school competition, but there are some incredibly dominant players who come out and have an immediate impact in the league. We see it every year, and this year is no different. We've talked about David Walker from Central Arkansas, Charles Grant from William and Mary, but Sacramento State left guard Jackson Slater has been a favorite of mine since I studied him back in October, and is a player who is really starting to garner a bunch of buzz in this draft class. In a weaker interior offensive line class, how high could Slater hear his name called on draft night? That is what we will be discussing in today's video. But hey guys, if you guys are new to the channel, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. Also, be sure to check out my Patreon page, which I will leave linked in the description below. For just $5 a month, you guys will get exclusive access to my in-depth draft guide and big board, with over 500 scouting reports and evals on every single player on the board. It is one of the best resources on the market, and you can find all the player measurements, stats, and analytics you guys need to be successful this draft cycle. Leave a comment and let me know which prospects you guys would like to see in a future episode, and without further ado, let's take a closer look at Jackson Slater. Slater has been at Sacramento State for the last 4 years and has played almost 3,200 snaps for the Hornets. In 2023, Slater finished the year with 925 snaps, allowing just 10 pressures and 0 sacks on the season. He had some hype over the summer and started off the 2024 season very well. He played 639 snaps, allowing just 3 pressures and 0 sacks before suffering an injury that cost him the second half of the season. He is healthy though, and he did participate in the Senior Bowl down in Mobile, Alabama, and he had a very good week and has been steadily moving up draft boards as a result. Slater has a really compact build for the interior of the offensive line, and he had some really good measurements at the Senior Bowl. He's 6'3", 320 pounds, and he also had 33-inch arms for the position. He uses his size to his advantage, and he plays with a low center of gravity. He's very strong for the position, and he's really hard for defenders to move. He has great pop with his hands, and he wins the leverage battles. Both in his upper and lower body, Jackson Slater has phenomenal strength and size. The first thing that really stands out on tape when you're watching Slater are his movement abilities, particularly in the run game. He explodes off the line of scrimmage, and he showcases the ability to move up into the second level with some solid quickness and athleticism. Sacramento State used him a lot on pulls, and he did a very nice job of climbing into the second level and making contact with defensive players and opening up run lanes. He is a very fluid mover that I am very interested to see how he tests at the combine. I also think that Slater is very solid in terms of his footwork. He has a really strong anchor for the guard position. We mentioned he's really good with his hands, but I also think he's very fluid in his lower half to stick with defensive players. If he loses a step, he has the quickness to get back into the play. There is a lot to love about Slater as a prospect in terms of his abilities to not only make an impact as a run blocker, but I do think he brings some good upside in the passing game as well. The biggest issue I notice with Slater is he has a really bad tendency of lunging. His technique can be a bit all over the place at times, and it just didn't feel like he played upright often. The biggest reason for this, I believe, is his sporadic hand placement. His hands can be all over the place, and while he does land some powerful hits with his hands, where his hands are hitting can be all over the place. If he doesn't get a good grip early on in the rep, he finds himself lunging way more than is ideal. He's going to have to get that cleaned up at the next level because it's just not very good technique. The other area I would like to see Slater improve upon is that I think he has the tendency to overextend in the run game. He sometimes can be out of control, and he's got to get better in that department. It's not the biggest concern in the world, but it is certainly something I have noticed with him from time to time. I know a lot of people are going to try and discredit Slater because he plays FCS competition, but we have seen FCS players come to the NFL and be difference makers, and I think Jackson Slater is a really solid FCS prospect. We mentioned he brings a versatile skill set to the NFL level, he's very strong, and he's got tons of experience that NFL teams are absolutely going to love. I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if he's a day one starter in the NFL and he turns out to be a very good NFL player. He's my number 9 interior offensive lineman in the draft class and my number 120 overall prospect. It's hard not to fall in love with what he has, and I think he's going to be a steal down the board. In terms of a scheme fit, I think that Slater will be a versatile player. He can play in both the run game and in the pass game. However, I think with his athleticism and his ability to pull and climb into the second level, he would work best in a zone run game scheme. He's great in space, and I think he's going to dominate in that role where you can get him on an island, he can move to the second level, and just displace defenders. I think he's going to thrive anywhere an NFL team decides to put him. My player comparison for Jackson Slater is Chicago Bears left guard Tevin Jenkins. Jenkins was a tackle when coming out of Oklahoma State, but he has turned into one of the better guards in football when he is healthy. Both Slater and Jenkins have phenomenal abilities in space as run blockers and are very strong for the position. They keep defenders warded off and are able to win the leverage battles because of their low center of gravity. Both of them can have some issues with lunging and inconsistent technique at times, but I think Slater at his peak could be very similar to what Tevin Jenkins has been throughout his career for the Bears. Jackson Slater is strong as an ox. He has remarkable upper body strength and is a people mover in the run game. He has fantastic upside in pass protection and is one of the more slept on guards in this draft class. And ultimately, I believe that Jackson Slater will be a 3rd to 4th round pick in the 2025 NFL Draft.